All right, so I have Google Docs on the left-hand side of the screen, and I have Notion on the right. We're going to compare these two apps because there's a lot of similarities and overlap between the two, but there's a lot of differences as well. So the first example that we're going to use, we're just going to start out old-fashioned, if you will. I have kind of an example of just a report that you would turn in for school. So this is a flat file, if you will. It's kind of meant to end up on a piece of paper. We're going to copy it, and we will paste this into Google Docs. And we'll also come over and we'll paste it in the Notion. So the point of pasting it is just to act like we came in here and just typed it all. So it's just characters and enters, right? So you get the end of Adam Steinfurth, you hit enter, you start typing Professor Nicola. But we want to get it to a point where it's formatted in a way that allows you to turn it in. Okay, so there's formatting standards out there that we're going to use called MLA guidelines. We're not going to go through every single one of them, but we're going to use a few of them as examples for what Docs will let you do and what Notion will let you do. And the first recommendation is talking about paper, and it wants you to be able to print it out on 8.5 by 11-inch paper. All right, that's already okay in Docs because if you go to the File menu and go to Page Setup, applied to the whole document is 8.5 by 11-inch paper. We haven't gotten to this one yet, but there's also 1-inch margins. Those are specified in Docs and they can be changed. So if you look for a concept like that in Notion, you'll notice right away the concept of a page is different, right? It's more just like the web where you scroll down and it's all one page. There's no 8.5 by 11 happening here, and there's no margins. So if you do go up to the menu in the upper right hand corner and you go to export, you can export it to a PDF. You can put it in a letter format, but you can't control the margins, and you have to kind of guess where your page breaks are going to appear. So we'll cancel that out and go through a few more examples of how Docs really is meant to comply to specifications like this. It's not something that Notion does well. A little spoiler alert for you there. But let's look at double spacing, italics, and a header. All right, and then we'll have a pretty good idea of what's happening here. So double spacing in Docs, if you select everything with Control-A, you go to Format, there's a line and paragraph spacing menu option, and it has all sorts of choices here for you. So in this case, we'll just do double. And this double spacing is smart, right? So you don't have to manually hit enter twice after every line. It just automatically puts in a double space. If we come to Notion and select everything, that concept doesn't exist, all right? So double spacing is not a thing in Notion. You could go through and manually hit enter after every line if you wanted. But then if you had a line and you added words to it and wrapped around the next line, it wouldn't be double spaced anymore. Right, but some things that do exist in both. So if you have to do italics, that's pretty easy, right? Let's select these words and we'll just left click on italic on the menu. And let's highlight some words in Notion. You automatically get this formatting menu that pops up and you can left click on italic. Probably familiar with the concept of regular text and headers. Those exist in Notion as well, along with some things like bulleted list, numbered list. So you can write documents in Notion, you just can't control them to the same degree that you can in Docs. And when you're getting ready to print this report, we've already seen that Notion, it can print it. You don't have a lot of control, but it can print it. But in Docs, since it knows where the page breaks are, you can also do a header. You could put a page number up here too if you wanted to. And this header, if you notice it here, when you scroll down, it puts it at the top of every page. All right, that wouldn't happen in Notion because the concept of page just isn't there. It's not necessarily a shortcoming of Notion, it's just because it works in a fundamentally different way. But now we're going to do our first little hint about how some things do work better in Notion. So let's say we had a relevant table of data that we wanted to insert into this report. In Docs, you could hit enter and you could insert a table. All right, but when you type data into here, let's say there was frogs. There were 3 of them. Another number is 5, and then there were tadpoles. And you say, oh, in this case, I want to add a total line and I want to add an average line. So we'll insert a row below. And you can't do formulas in docs, right? So I know these aren't that hard to add up, but this is a very limiting construct here. So what you would do in docs is you would go back to Google Drive and you would right click and you would create a Google Sheet. We'll just call this table, super generic name. And if we take this data out of this table, put it into sheets, we can change these to using the sum formula. All right, so that way, if you come back and you realize there's not 5 frogs, there's 6, the total will update. And if you right click and copy this, go back into Docs, get rid of this table, then right click and paste. It's going to know that you have a table from a Google Sheet on your clipboard, and it's going to ask if you want to link it. So definitely link it, because then when you update things, let's say you change your measurements again, and the tadpoles, you found 5 of them. Come back, change this to a 5. That total updated to 8. You go back in your report. You have the option to left click on update here, and it brings the new data in. All right, so you can link a live table into Docs. I really want that centered. How do I get that to the center? Oh, well. But in Notion, there's something very different going on. So let's say we want our table here. Commands in Notion can be accessed by doing the /. All right, it gets you this pop-up menu. You can also just left click on the plus sign. And what we're going to do now is we're going to insert an inline table. And I put that down here. I don't know why, but we're going to use this concept of blocks. In case you didn't notice, when I hover over certain parts of the document, you get a control. So if I go over works cited, you see these 6 dots. If I go over this table, you see these 6 dots. I wanted this up here, so you could just grab it and move it in Notion. Wherever you see these 6 dots, that's considered a block. All right, so anyway, back to this table. If you want to put your results in here, we're going to, actually we won't give it a name because we're going to have it look like this one. Let's just put some of that data right into this table. But there's a little bit more structure here, so it does want a name. Let's just give it that, right? It probably should have a name. We'll say species. And the property type is just a title. We'll keep it at that. And then the next one will be, let's say that's the amount. And this property type is just a number, right? That's all we're doing here. We'll add one more and we'll say weight. That's not text. This is going to be a number as well. So the species was frogs. The amount was 3. And the weight was 6. You can just add another line, tadpoles, 5, 5. All right, so you may think that that was just more work, right? Why do you need to manually type in a table? Well, what you can do is, because this is a real table, you can add formulas in, and the table is completely self-contained within the document, and the formulas will update. So let's delete this line. And you'll notice there's a count down here, and the count is right. There's 2 types of species. Well, we don't want that count there. Let's get rid of that. Here we do want a sum, and we also wanted a sum on the weight. All right, so now you have a live table in Notion embedded within the document, and you can do all sorts of things with this table, but one just small example is this record of frogs. If you open it up, you would see it in its own page, and you could add commentary right here that would stay with that record. All right, so this is not a spreadsheet, this is a database, and because of that, it opens up all sorts of different possibilities. But if you're just making a report like we are in this example, this is probably all you want. All right, so next we're going to look at a different document type, And this is going to bring more parity between the two apps. Okay, so you'll see as we walk through it, Notion and Docs can do similar things, but they'll do it in different ways. What we're going to do is act like we're taking meeting notes from a meeting that just happened. So we're going to create a new document. And when you want to create a separate document in Google Docs, let's just take a second to talk about what that means. So you could go to the File menu and just do New Document from here, but it's typically being saved in Google Drive. You can make a Google Doc from other services too, like Dropbox, but we're just using Drive. And when I look at where the file is saved, it's your traditional directory structure, right? So there's layers of folders here. I made a folder called Docs versus Notion, and then I put the report, if I double click on it, in a folder that says report. And this is where that embedded table is also. So for this next one, we can just go into this folder. You can see there's other file types saved in here, right? Because Google Drive is not just for Google Docs. But from here, you can right click, add a new blank Google Doc, and we will call this one Meeting Notes. Now, the point of showing you that is to contrast it with how this would be saved and organized in Notion, which would be completely different. Notion doesn't have a separate backend that's like Drive that just holds files and folders. Notion is all pages. So what we want to do, we actually need to make this document called a report into its own page, and then these new meeting notes in a separate page. So let's add a line. We'll go back up, and I'll use that / again to get access to these commands. And I'll just type PA to get a page. And that's going to make a subpage here. I'm going to move that report here. So I'll just call this report. And I get the breadcrumb navigation at the top. I'll go back to Docs versus Notion. We'll select all of this that we were just working on. Select it all, and just the easiest thing to do is just do Control X for cut. Go into the report page, left click on empty, and paste it. All right, so this is where we're going to store our report. When we go back up to Docs versus Notion, all there is here is a link to the report. So this isn't like Drive where it's a separate file and you don't see a document and a spreadsheet. It's all just one page. Now we're going to do a new one. So we will just go below it, do another /, going to create another page, and we'll call this one Meeting Notes. And we'll have a little fun here and do empty with icon just because we want something cool looking here. And let's say it was a bunch of people talking in a room. So we'll left click on this one that says Speaking Ed. All right, so we'll go over to Google Docs. And like we said before, this is a meeting that already happened. And something has been added to Google Docs to give it more functionality, and that is integration with other apps. So in Docs, you want to use the @ symbol. And then you get this dynamic menu that pops up here that lets you select the different items that are going to have some extra information that pulls in. Let's go look at my calendar real quick to see what I'm going to pull in. I made an appointment on here called New Joint Venture. Sounds fancy, right? Let's make this bigger so you can see it. We'll go to day, and I made it on September 2nd, New Joint Venture. Let's go back to our document, and we'll type in new. And it brings up the calendar event. Let's come down, left click on it, and it says click tab to insert meeting notes. We'll hit tab. So it was smart enough to put the date of the meeting, the title of the meeting. So the title is just from this appointment, what I called it right here, New Joint Venture. I wanted to make it sound fancy and important, even though no such meeting really occurred. It automatically brought in the attendees. So when you hover over them, these are smart, right? So I don't know why I'd write an email to myself, but if I wanted to, I would just left click on here. This is another account, my organization. I could start chatting with him right here or have a video call. So all sorts of extra cool stuff that's brought into Docs. And it's even reminding me that Michael doesn't have access to this. So if we want to, we can go up left click on share and add him, but we will skip that part for now. Get too far off the subject. And if you wanted to add some notes here, we're going to say we need $20 million. Small, not a big deal. And action items. So Google Docs also now has the ability to have checkboxes. So this action item can be call, and I'm going to bring Michael into this again tomorrow. Well, I'm going to call him, and I want to do it tomorrow, so I will insert tomorrow's date. So these are all being done by the @ sign, and hit enter, and it's going to give me another item. So these are live checkboxes, and when you left click on them, they strike through the item. Well, we probably need one more action here. Let's say make $20 million. Just so we remember to do that, right? All right, so that's the meeting notes that you could do in Google Docs. Let's come over to Notion, and we'll actually start with the template. So Notion has lots of templates. We're going to find this one in Human Resources and Meeting Notes, and we'll just say use this template. So let's open up this example that it gave us. We're going to change this to say new joint venture. And it pre-populates with all these different attributes that you can have to describe your meeting. Let's say we don't want type. We'll just delete that property. But the participants we want to do the same way. So here, if you were working with Michael, he'd be one of these people in the drop-down list. We'll just pick another version of me for now. When these notes are created isn't what you're concerned about. You want the date of the meeting. So let's change this from last edited time to meeting date. And we'll change the property type just to a date. And then that way the data type is smart enough where it gives you a calendar to select from the date. Select 9/2, and then you're good. All right, so we have the equivalent of the date field, we have the title, and we have the attendees. And there's equivalent fields in Notion as well. So you get a bulleted list that you can add items to, and you can also have checkboxes that'll show the status of items and check it off when it's done. All right, and for our last example, we're just going to look at something that really only works in Notion. It's far beyond the capabilities of Google Docs, for better or worse. Docs, as we saw, is very good at certain things like writing a standard report. It's a toss-up on something like taking meeting notes, but then when you get into newer items, so let's just left click on templates and look at one of these that kind of stretches the definition of what a document is. And we will, let's left click on personal CRM. And I have no idea what this is yet, but we will click use this template. And you see a couple things going on here. So one is there's an integrated table. It already works in a way that Docs won't, because if you take the all contacts and you want to look at just professional contacts, so this would be a filtered view, you can do that, and this updates live. Now, of course, there's nothing on that view. We'll look college, and here they are. So these tables that are embedded into these documents can let you organize things in a different way, add new views. So we'll do a Kanban board here. And you can move around and sort your data seamlessly all in one app. All right, so let's move Elizabeth Young to family. Just that easy. And when you open that up by left clicking on it, you'll see the association is family now. So it's all live. There is a date in here, last contacted. So we'll look at this in a calendar view. Add a view, go to calendar. And that looked like it was back in 2019. So we'll scroll backwards. And here's some of the data that was in the template. And again, you can just left click on it, view it as its own page. All right, scroll down a little bit. But you can pretty quickly see this is feeling more like a web page than a traditional document. All right, so Google Docs and Notion do different things very well. What you're looking at right here couldn't be done in Docs. And if you're looking to write science report, you wouldn't really want to try it in Notion. Everything in between, pick which one you like better. In this next video, we're going to spend some time looking at pivot tables in Google Sheets, and then roughly the equivalent in Notion, and see what those feel like. So thanks for watching. Always glad to have you along, and I'll see you in that next video.